Welcome to the Winspreneur show. Today we have somebody brilliant. He's a maestro of emotional intelligence. Oh, it's my utmost pleasure to welcome Shivam to the Winspreneur show. Welcome Shivam.
Thank you so much for having me and really wonderful to have you.
वंडरफुल. आपने इनकी किताबें पढ़ी होंगी, आपने इनको इंस्टाग्राम पे फॉलो किया होगा because he's a superstar. He's over there and he's talking about one thing and one thing only, which is the most important factor in our, the mental strength that we require. The aptitude that we require, whatever we are, ये सब इसके बीच में है and इनसे कोई better नहीं है हमें इसके बारे में बताने के लिए emotional intelligence. But guys, it's always stories on the Winspreneur show, and today we want to know the person who teaches and coaches people on emotional intelligence, उनकी story क्या है? So Shivam ji, you're so young. So story के dots तो बहुत सारे अभी तक already लग चुके होंगे. आगे story journey बहुत लंबी है. But tell us about your story. What made Shivam the emotional intelligence maestro?
Right. Thank you so much for this beautiful introduction, first of all.
Wonderful.
And when I talk about the story and obviously the dots that has been connected so far, I am not the emotional intelligence coach. अगर हम पहले से connect करके बात की जाए तो I have always been a very fascinating science student. So I have always loved science for that matter.
Wow. Okay.
And I have always been craving for the logic of science and physics and chemistry and maths and biology. So I'm always driven to the science aspect of it.
Wow. Scientists.
So ideally, if you think about it, I have worked as a scientist.
Wonderful.
I am ideally a PhD in Aerospace Engineering. I have on the verge of finishing my PhD. I have worked as an assistant professor. I have worked as a scientist. I have worked as a researcher, research scholar in the field of aerospace engineering. Worked on important aircrafts and rockets in over
Wow.
India.
So we have a scientist, and soon we'll be calling him Dr. Shivam.
Hopefully soon.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah. So that is how the whole curiosity started. So like I mentioned, I've always been driven by science and logic of things. Now, while I was in the course of my engineering days, the curiosity, of course, you are into any sort of engineering and college for that matter, you are around a lot of people, different types of people for that matter. And that makes you thinking. So when you're at your home and your own hometown for that matter, you just see the same things over and over again. So naturally the whole point of comfort comes into picture. That okay, this is the belief that I want to believe in, this is the thing that I want to address as, this is the thing that feels comfortable for me. When I get to a new college or get to a new system for that matter, I see a lot of other crowds, I see a lot of other people, I see a lot of other belief system. And that makes me think that what is it exactly that makes people happy, excited, sad, whatever the thing about.
Wow.
And that is where the curiosity of science slightly started to deviate towards psychology and emotions and human behavior.
Amazing.
So I started to read more and more about emotions, about where does it come from, where does it actually root from, all the things. And started to read, started to work on a lot of things. And I've seen a lot of friends, family members and other places as well, that when you talk about big impact of influence and the big impact of how people are bothered by certain things in life, or the very simple thing that what makes people very sad or disappointed or not so comfortable with their own lives, the very important, the core reason often boils down to unable to understand themselves.
Wow.
Right? So,
Wow.
so when people are not able to understand themselves, it automatically roots into doing a lot of things which do not take them to the happy part of it or the part that they can use to build themselves.
Amazing.
The very simple thing that gravity for that matter. So if I'm aware of gravity, I will use that to my advantage. If I'm not aware of gravity, I'll always be confused and very alarmed about what exactly is happening. Same thing goes with our own life as well.
So in your journey, in your story, there was a lot of psychology involved,
Yes,
right?
yes.
You were breaking it down. In terms of science, the
Science.
scientist you are,
Yeah.
and you were trying to assess what affects people.
Exactly.
What affects their emotions.
Right.
Why do people react the way they react?
Absolutely.
Why do people, some are different in the same situation while other, are totally different.
Exactly.
So why are people, behaving the way they are behaving? Wonderful, Shivam.
Right.
So you had the science bug, and you had this, like, you were in college, lots of exposure. You're looking at people, you're observing people. So what did you do? Did you start interviewing people, or did you just rely on reading? And were you talking to a lot of people also, or you were doing the first, let me research everything about it?
Right. I think the first part always started with research and observation. Observing people, what exactly is happening and what are the things impacting people for that matter. And then eventually it's gone into learning, talking to people, communicating about their needs, their feelings, their emotions as well. And eventually that came to a point that after studying a lot of things, after understanding a lot of things, I got into experimenting all the things with myself.
Wow.
So I'll tell you a very funny thing. I never wrote a single article, a piece of article in any of my newspapers or news articles in magazines or school or college or anything like that till my bachelor's. The moment I finished my bachelor's degree, I decided that, okay, I've done a lot of things. I in fact, after the finishing my bachelor's, I ended up getting an all India rank of 200 in GATE examination, that is a prestigious for IITs for masters. So I got an all India rank of 200. So I did a lot of study part in that particular college, but I went to my master's degree. That was in bits. My whole and most important goal was to experiment with myself. So I've learned a lot of new things. I've learned exactly not learned everything, but I've understood a lot of new things. But I now want to experiment. How does it really work out? So that is where I started to writing articles, writing blogs.
Wow.
So the funny thing that I started with writing satirical articles.
Okay.
And so I wrote a funny piece of article, funny piece of blog on my own college about satire, about how things match up and politics and everything like that. And of course, students like satire, especially being so college and professors. So the blog became super.
Wow.
That is where my seed of writing started to grow. And then I started to understand, okay, the writing is one way of expressing my emotions, expressing my way of understanding things.
And the way to reach a lot more people
than just your friends. Right? So that is where the whole seed started. Then I started to take participations in public speaking and doing certain things like that. Many times I stood up for myself and thought, okay, I'll do this particular thing. Of course, I was scared because I never did that particular thing in my whole life. But I did so because I wanted to experiment and challenge myself. It went well and perfect. But again, I was nowhere near what I am right now. But yeah, there was a lot of learning and progress that went along with it. So after all things happened and everything started to go in that direction, I started writing very periodically, very organically in various blogs, various articles. I founded a company called SkitHub way back then after college.
SkitHub.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, that was all about satire for that matter. And then we hired certain 10-15 writers and we did a lot of things just after my master's degree. While I started to work as a project scientist and doing a lot of things in that part as well. And that is where, again, I wrote a lot. I wrote a lot in that period, and that is where that brushed up my writing skills.
Wonderful.
Eventually, after I joined as an assistant professor in Chandigarh, I decided that I've written a lot of articles, I've written a lot of things.
Let's compile.
Let's compile them to write a book, put up a certain book together. So I did so.
But this was on the satire part,
No,
or were you writing about behavior and emotions?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, I started with satire, started with humor, but eventually switched on into the aspect of psychology, human behavior,
so
philosophy.
you had changed.
I changed from there. So from satire to humor to eventually coming to human behavior and motivation and emotional intelligence.
So you then released your first book.
I then released my first
book. What was it
way
called?
Back in 2017.
2017. What's
it's called How to Unleash Your True Potential.
How to Unleash Your True Potential. This should be on Amazon and everything.
It's everywhere.
Check it out, guys.
It's everywhere. And out of my curiosity, out of my interest, that book became very famous. Okay. I did not expect that but it got very famous.
See, if it's helping people understand themselves.
Yeah,
then that's what everybody needs, right? So wonderful.
So the book got to the crowds in India and abroad and in various other places as well. And that is where again now I started to get certain invites from colleges and places for workshops and events and other things.
So when did the word emotional intelligence become your calling card? You wrote a book and it says how to unleash your true potential, right? And but all I know of you, and that is the speciality he has, he talks and he's a master of emotional intelligence. So my question would be, where in your story did you actually say, okay, this is it, this is what I embrace, and this is my calling card. I want to be known as this, and it's brilliant actually. So when was that?
It was in 2019.
2019.
Yeah, so basically, like I mentioned, I was starting to read a lot about emotions, behavior, and so many other things about it. And so eventually, everything was boiling down to that one very basic core thing: emotions. Our behavior, our actions, our beliefs, our thoughts. So I was first talking about our behaviors, then our thoughts, then our actions, and eventually everything boiled down to emotions.
Wow.
So then I realized that, okay, I think this is something that needs to be worked around. If we want to bring a very important change into our lives, this is something we must work around: emotions.
Imagine that.
And then
Wonderful.
Eventually I did my certification for life coaching and trainer program in emotional intelligence. I got my life coaching accreditation from there.
Wonderful.
And then I started full-time into training and life coaching in emotional intelligence.
So there's another question I have, which is like a person, normally we are brought up to be settled,
Yeah.
and your path, your education suggests that there would have been somebody nudging you towards getting settled,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And then to leave something like being an associate professor, did you go full time into this?
Yes.
You did, right? So you took that leap of faith and that plunge, and you accepted the risk that comes along with it.
Yes.
That means there is no paycheck month to month which is going to fall, but you said, hey, I believe in myself so much, and this is working. My book did well. And so, how did you overcome this? That step that you took. Were you, were you thinking too much about it, or you said, I'm too young, let's see kya hoega?
No, I think I thought about it, of course, because it's a matter of settlement and also about basically having a very basic financial independence as well. But yeah, the some important components were that I decided to completely transition into full-time coach and speaker is when I finally figured out that I'm kind of starting to earn and starting to become independent in the path.
Wow.
It's kind of the same. And then I started to put myself,
so
push myself.
you started making this similar amount of money you were making as an associate professor,
Yes.
and then you said, okay, now is the time I can
Yeah.
transition from. Okay,
This
wonderful,
time,
wonderful.
So I had to take a choice. Of course, if I had stayed there, completing my PhD and everything, obviously I would have earned more and done a lot of good things as well. But I then decided that this is something I love teaching as well, for that matter. I love teaching and I love research as well. But I realized that this path is something that can reach out to so many other people and something that is so important. We don't even talk about certain things.
Wonderful.
So that is where it kind of transitioned to that. Of course, the role of partner has a very important role to play as well, because that is where the settlement and the security front is also being taken care of.
So Shivam, when somebody talks about emotional intelligence, the first thing that comes to mind is, hey, he'll be emotionally intelligent, hey, and he'll be always sound. But normally life is not like that.
True.
You would also have your challenges. You would also have your, the emotional distress situations or the emotionally challenging situations.
Absolutely.
How have you, overcome your own set of emotions whilst you are coaching others on it? How does Shivam, overcome his own emotions?
Right. I think the very important component of understanding this thing is that when we talk about emotional intelligence, or just anything for that matter, is that it doesn't make you susceptible or any sort of shield from emotions or the problems that are associated with it.
That's where I was getting at.
Exactly. So the life will always throw certain things at you. And that's how the brain naturally works. So when you're in that, like I mentioned about being in your hometown or your city for that matter, you are in your comfort zone. Of course, not always in your hometown, there are challenges there as well. But yeah, when you are in that comfortable zone, your brain is always feeling happy and settled with it. But the moment you challenge yourself, that is where your brain will always start to feel alarmed and panicky and stressed out and so many other things associated with it. Now, with the understanding of emotions and behaviors and beliefs that comes along with it, it becomes easier to understand what exactly I'm stepping into and what exactly is a real threat that might be bothering me. It doesn't mean the problems are not there. It doesn't mean the challenges are not there. It doesn't mean the issues are not there at all. There are as many issues as for any other normal person as well. But with awareness and with understanding of certain things about yourself and about how you deal with certain things, naturally the time with which it stays obviously reduces to a very small time. For example, if I'm bothered about some particular issue, normally and naturally I may think about it for days. But now when I'm aware of it, conscious of it, understanding of where exactly I'm headed towards, it might stay for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, sometimes an hour maybe. but then eventually manage it out in a better way without letting it react or getting it impulsive at time.
Amazing. See, I mean, from a different perspective, it sounds so wonderful, right? And you've put it beautifully. So, Shivam, what is it you are doing today? You're a full-time coach. You've taken emotional intelligence to the next level. You're probably India's #1 and most influential emotional intelligence coach out there. But what are you doing today, and what's next for Shivam? I mean, what drives you? You're obviously you're meeting a lot of people, so you're almost surrounded by a lot of people sharing their problems. Sometimes you might feel like a doctor, on the other side, a psychologist, because people, when they come and talk about emotional intelligence and probably take coaching from you, they would also open up a little bit. They would also share their problems with you. So what is Shivam doing today, and what is Shivam planning to do, in the future?
Right. And that's a very good point that you mentioned as well about the values part, that what exactly drives you as a person. And I think I always talk with my people I talk to on day-to-day basis, or even in universities and other corporate sessions as well, is about the role of values in our life, right? So when you talk about the value system that drives our life, it's very important that we identify this is the value that is driving me. And once you're aware of those things, you can use that to scalate your life or build the steps, small term and long term, in that particular order. And I have realized that my most important values in life are curiosity, learning, and helping people.
Wonderful. So those are your core values.
Those are my core values. And now I wish to shape my life, still I'm doing so, in aspect of those values. So basically when I'm talking to people on a day-to-day basis, there are times and places where I'm talking to a particular client and discussing about certain emotional blocks, roadblocks, or certain goals, or certain things that we need to work around. And then one point hits me. Okay, this is something I'm dealing with as well. And then opens up a new set of avenue for me as well. So basically when I'm talking to people, I'm learning with myself as well. Of course, they are getting that particular help. We're able to understand and get to that particular understanding and point as well. But that is where I'm growing as well. So the learning part is being taken care of. Curiosity, because you have to learn a lot. In order to understand people, human behavior, and not being able to connect yourself to them, because it's very, very important as a coach, or because of course there's a huge difference between psychologist or psychiatrist or a coach, because they are completely into the whole aspect of mental illnesses. But when you talk as a coach, there are components when people are talking to you about certain things. It is going to bring up and help you connect the dots between their issues and your issues. And it's very important that you try to maintain that difference, because the moment you get into that story, you're going to give advice rather than telling them what is the right thing to do.
Oh, so you cannot get your emotions into their emotions.
Absolutely.
The overlap.
Exactly.
Wonderful.
Right. Because my advice is never going to work on them.
Yeah.
Right. Because that will be from my story. They need their own understanding and value to work on those things.
Amazing.
So that distinction is very important as well. And of course that comes with time, understanding, and awareness as well. So that's a part of it. Now, this is the value that has been driving me, curiosity. I'm learning every day about it.
Learning and helping others.
Yeah, helping others, again, that's something that drives my life as well. And that is where I love teaching as well. So I love to go to universities and do corporate sessions where again, I'm able to interact with so many people and get to listen to their ideas and points and help them out in certain points as I can. Now, what is it next that I'm trying to do? So again, the whole goal right now is to work on building myself as a personal brand, for that matter, where people are able to understand and connect with me on that personal level. Again, I'm really grateful for all the love that I get from the social media, because every day I wake up and get some beautiful message from people that your content and your posts and the stories are so raw, relatable, that it helps us open up my avenues of thinking.
Amazing. Yeah.
So waking up every day to those messages is really a wonderful thing. So that is also a pushing factor as well. But my goal is to scale up from there, to be able to connect with more people. The more people I connect with, the more number of people I would be able to help as well and make an influence in their life.
That's wonderful. Guys, do check out his Instagram. What's your handle?
Shivam now.
And do check out his book, because Shivam is curious. He's learning all the time to help you out there. Is that well said? Oh, great. So Shivam, when we are winding down and when we are looking at, we've already asked you what you're going to do next, but if you were to give 2 or 3 pieces of advice. You're such a person who inspires, right? What would be that advice be? And please make it around emotional intelligence, because, we would love to hear from Shivam, and everybody would want to hear what are those 3 pieces of advice. Yeah, you can make it 2 if you want, but the best advice that you can give people out there.
Right.
I'm sure whoever is watching till now has loved Shivam completely. So please, all yours.
I think the number one thing should always be to be true to yourself. No, it's a very cliched advice that be true to yourself, but that's what I mentioned about as well.
People don't do that.
People don't do that. It's very easy, especially in today's world, to be driven by someone else's philosophy of life. That means if I see someone else buying an iPhone or buying a particular car for that matter, my brain is going to say that this looks really cool. This looks really nice. I should buy the same for myself.
Something like FOMO also, fear of missing out, why is his grass greener?
Exactly,
right?
or borrowing someone else's philosophy of what makes them happy. So if a person is happier by buying a car, maybe that defines or adds a value to their life. But for me, maybe buying a car would not add any particular value to my life. So if I'm borrowing someone else's philosophy, I'm never going to get happy or fulfilled. I need to understand my own philosophy of life. That can only happen when I'm very much aware of my own value systems. So first thing, be aware of yourself and be true to yourself through your own values. That's the most important thing.
That's a golden nugget, wow, amazing.
Yeah. The second component is also understanding the importance of all the emotions that comes into your day-to-day life. Because very often we end up categorizing emotions as positive or negative. However, there are no such thing as positive or negative emotions. For a brain, if I talk about the whole crunch of emotional intelligence as well, for a brain, there is no such thing as positive or negative emotions. For a brain, all emotions are important pieces of information. In fact, negative emotions are much more important than positive emotions because they tend to help you survive in a better way.
Amazing.
We have evolved from hunters and gatherers and from various other animals as well. And today we are able to be the most dominant species on the planet because of our ability to survive and adapt. And if not for survival, our brain would just be wandering around doing a lot of random things. So for a brain, survival is the most important thing. And what helps us to survive are negative emotions.
Wow.
So rather than thinking that, okay, this is my enemy, this is a wrong thing, this is a bad thing, we must understand why am I feeling sad, why am I feeling stressed out, why am I feeling anxious. And then using that understanding and awareness to finally work on yourself. Okay, I'm feeling sad, maybe I got less marks in the examination, that is why I'm feeling sad. Why am I feeling bad about it? Maybe I think that my parents won't be proud at me. Why does it bother me? Because I want to make them proud and I want them to feel that I can take care of them eventually. So eventually, what is the core crux that is coming out of it? Me failing the examination towards me making me feel sad is because I end up feeling unworthy about myself.
But do people actually analyze so much?
They don't, and that's the goal.
Okay.
That is where I come into picture.
No, there you go. You were on 2, so we're waiting for one more nugget.
So the third point would be understanding the very important component of addressing and importance of confidence as well. So very often when you see the confidence or the aspect of confidence as well, we often look at the outer appearance as confidence thing. So maybe the aspect of how I'm looking, which is again important. I'm not saying it's not important, it's definitely very, very important. How I'm projecting myself or what I'm doing in certain areas of it. And what are the things that are influencing me as a person. Those are the things I would say that, okay, this is what confidence looks like. In fact, for the most of the people in India, who has grown up and family in India and been conditioned here in India, our definition of confidence often roots and lies in the aspect of aggression. Even if I think about you, think about any other aspect of it. Or for all of us, growing up, if I talk about what would your idea of confidence be like? We would often imagine that aspect of leaders as our politicians. In fact, if someone is wanting to get something from you, naturally the first thing that defines our idea of confidence would be shouting at them and taking it away, rather than asking it politely. The moment I say politely, people would say that, okay, you're very kind and people are going to use you and this is not the right thing to do. So confidence is something we often consider as aggression.
Wonderful. This is so relatable because I was talking about it yesterday. I was with a team and we were with their sales team, and I was talking about the same thing, that the perception of a salesperson is that of aggression.
Exactly.
And it's never that.
Absolutely.
It's never that.
Absolutely.
It's the conditioning we've
Exactly.
we
We're built
brought
a
up
process.
with,
Absolutely.
that's what affects. So wonderful. Shivam.
Right. So the whole point I'll just complete that the whole point that revolves around here is that if you look at actual leaders, especially in Silicon Valley or the big leaders of Facebook, Microsoft, other big companies as well, they are not aggressive. Their leaders are never aggressive. When they talk, they communicate, they speak with assertiveness. And when I talk about assertiveness, that means they're talking without any impact or influence of emotions on their face or in their words as well.
Wow.
That makes it much more clear and much more factual compared to coming out with a lot of aggression or a lot of fear either. For example, if I'm shouting at this particular point of time with a lot of aggression or anger, people won't listen to what I'm saying. People will only listen to that he's such an angry person. Or if I'm talking with like a very scared or very fearful face as well. Again, no matter how good things I'm saying, people will always say that he's such a scared person, he's very scared right now. Again, no one is listening to what I'm saying.
But if you're assertive and you're speaking with confidence,
yes,
then
the point will be put across without any layer of emotions. That will make a lot of things sorted.
Wow.
So that is again part of it. What is your source of influence of confidence? And how can you put your confidence out there in the terms of assertiveness, in terms of awareness about yourself as well? Because eventually it all boils into emotional awareness as well.
Emotional awareness. Wow. So be true to yourself and your values.
Yes.
That was one of the most inspiring interviews I have done with anybody as a guest on the Winspreneur show. Guys, we bring you content every week, and we're very small. It's a small channel, and but the idea is to share. From where I've come from, the only things I have left is that I have humility, I have hunger, and I'm a little smart when I, do everything over here. So this component is what I go out and tell people to be, as a true package. And today we have somebody who is, who personifies confidence, personifies emotionally intelligent people, and is the best coach out there. If you did like what you see, what you saw, please do subscribe. Hit that subscribe button because you'll get good karma for life, and you'll always be that assertive, confident person that you want to be. So take that good luck from me, and please do subscribe to the channel from the Winspreneur show. Thank you so much for being here with us, Shivam. It was truly enthralling. It was wonderful.
I'm so glad to be here.
Yes, great.